This is the Varsity Brews podcast. It's the college football playoff wrap up show with Evan Sharpley and the man in black today. And that is not Johnny Cash, it is AJW somewhere in the ether. What's up, gentlemen?
I'm just hiding because the Detroit Lions lost.
Well, listen,
Ah,
listen.
Jared Goff. Jared Goff.
Come on, man.
I thought you'd be having the plastic bag over your head, but in fact, you just went dark. I understand.
That's how it works, buddy.
I
Hey,
understand. Hey, the Packers got bounced in the first round, so I get it. I get it.
20, 20,
So yeah,
20
we are going to talk a little Super Bowl talk.
We're all hurting here. I mean, the Chiefs chiefed again, and the Bills lost, so I'm in mourning.
That was rough, man. That was rough to watch. It was just rough all around.
Yeah.
We're going to talk college football here, of course, as we wrap up the college football season. We still have a couple shows left because technically the NFL is still happening. And of course, we're all going to see Taylor Swift get proposed to on the field. And, the script is already written, as AJW pointed out.
I called that. I called that.
Unfortunately, we're not going to the Super Bowl, guys, because Detroit did not make it. So I'm sorry. We're going to have to wait another year. You know the color scheme thing, right? Like, have you
Yeah,
seen that color scheme
Yes.
thing?
it's spot on. It's green and red.
Next year, AJ, it's light blue and royal blue next year.
Buddy, Honolulu blue.
So that's
Honolulu blue, yes.
so that's Bills Lions.
Wow.
Could be. Hey,
Can you imagine that?
I would love to see that. Two teams that have never won it in the entire history of the NFL, Bills and Lions. So I'm all in for that.
That would be nice. Well, let's start talking about. Let's start the show this week with a little college football. Everybody, it seems like, has been traveling. Ev, you've been traveling. I've been traveling. So, kind of our first time to get together in a couple weeks here. But let's put a wrap up on it. Notre Dame goes to the Orange Bowl. They win the Orange Bowl on a last second kick by Mitch Jeter. And then they go to the championship game. And after that first drive, it really looked like Notre Dame was in it to win it. And then the defense just kind of fell apart. I mean, you had that 10-minute drive and then just the porous defense through the next 2.5 quarters. And that was really all that did them in. I mean, the margin was too far at that point to come back. And it was asking a lot. But, Evan, we'll start with you. Kind of what are your thoughts on that game? Ohio State just seemed to have too many weapons.
Well, I didn't watch the game. Julie went into labor about as the game was starting.
Oh, that's right. Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, Kimbra. Welcome to the Welcome to the world.
It was funny though, because Julie kind of kept. She's like, "You can put the game on," and like for whatever reason, we have the ESPN Plus app, but didn't have, we don't have the whatever subscription or I don't know local service provider. So I just screencasted, the game cast on ESPN so we could see the play-by-play. And so, in between contractions, we're up there checking it out, but. Julie was joking that there was a lot going on that day, and had Notre Dame won, instead of her name being Kimber Elise, it was going to be like Riley number 13, Trump, Martin Luther King, Sharpley Jr.
What?
And of course, I was like, man, if she's going to be named after any former Notre Dame football player, it's probably going to be the guy in the house here. But
that's right.
Julie did such an amazing job. We did a home birth, and that was really cool and special to see. Johanna, my 9-year-old daughter, she was here. Julie's mom, the midwife, and one of her friends was in the house. So Julie was a rock star. It was really cool. She caught Kimber and in the tub, which was a really unique experience. And now we're going through the new baby stuff. So. She was a rock star, man. It was really awesome. So I
Well,
was kind of,
congrats, man. That's amazing
Yeah.
stuff.
Congrats, Mr. Sharpley.
thank you. Yeah, so I was kind of, keeping an eye up on the TV as things were going and saw the first drive. I didn't have my phone, so it was blowing up with people saying, "All right, well, we might have a shot here." And once once you give up a couple of scores, Notre Dame's team is just they're not really built to play. Vahid, you've been saying that all year, and they've relied on the strength of their defense, and I don't think anybody really thought going in that the defense would potentially be the reason why they lost the game. But there were some aspects that I think were exposed. That Notre Dame, they really hadn't played an offense with the weapons that Ohio State had at that caliber. You look at the first three playoff games, those offenses matched up very well with Notre Dame's defense. They weren't high-powered, explosive offenses. They were more kind of, grind it, 10-yard drives, and that's really where Notre Dame excelled was getting off the field on third downs and then forcing turnovers. And, you have two really good wide receivers and a tremendous running back. And I thought I saw some of the highlights in the post game. Ohio State did a pretty good job in being creative in a few ways to distribute the football to their playmakers and putting some of Notre Dame's defenders in some difficult positions. And then, it's just, I think the offense played well enough to win the football game. Which is unfortunate because, I thought that was kind of going to be the Achilles heel, that at some point their offense would be the reason why they lose a football game. And it went the opposite way. So good run for the Notre Dame team this year. I obviously didn't see them going that far. I think that speaks to what we heard time and again was the culture and how close they were as a team and some of that chemistry that they developed following the loss to NIU. Because, we were talking at that time in the season, you're one loss away from, is this the right guy for the job? So I think that Irish fans should be very supportive of the run that team made and how they responded in the second half of the season. And something certainly to remember in the first year of the college football playoff. But, you can't rest on your laurels. And in this environment now with NIL and transfer, you got to continue to stay hungry. And that's one big difference than the NFL is. Rosters are going to change quite significantly from year to year, either through graduation or transfer. So Notre Dame's got to continue to be aggressive. Marcus Freeman has the program, I think, in a good position, but you're defined by what you've done lately versus what you accomplished this past year. So certainly celebrate the success you have, learn from the loss against Ohio State. But now you've got to start focusing on the following year. And that's one thing to point out, too, is now with this extended college football playoff, you're already into spring practice, which is pretty crazy to think because, for me as a former Division I athlete playing football and baseball, you usually had a month off or more, depending on how that schedule fell until you started working out. So hopefully the guys get a little R&R to reset and refocus, and then it's back to getting things done.
Well, yeah, it's just nuts how these seasons are becoming. You have like 3-4 months in between at max, and that's about it. Wait, who has the echo going on?
I can hear it too.
Probably me.
Probably you. So I would say, listen, Notre Dame played well the entire playoff run. I think they ran into a buzzsaw of Ohio State. And I'll tell
Hey,
you
Aaron,
what.
hold on. Aaron, mute if you're not talking.
Yeah, got it.
I'll tell you what. The biggest thing for me, and you're right about all of the things that you said about the breakdown of that game. I think the biggest thing for me was, Aaron, I want you to chime in here in a second, but the biggest thing for me is Notre Dame went away from the running game. The thing that really got them to that spot was the offensive line, was the running game. Where was Jadarian Price? Where was Aeneas Williams? He was nowhere to be found in the championship game. Where was Jeremiah Love? So they went away from some of those things after the first drive. Obviously, they used Riley Leonard a lot in that first drive to the point where he was puking on the sidelines after that opening drive of 18 plays. But what Michigan did so well was slow down the tempo of Ohio State. Obviously, they could get some stops on defense, but that's AJW. You saw that with Michigan. I'm just surprised Notre Dame kind of went away from that formula after it worked so well for 18 plays to open the game.
All right. Here's my thoughts on it. So that opening drive, even though I'm like doing a little bit of back in black right here with Metallica, you can't see me, but you can hear me. So I've got good things to say. I in that opening drive was like, oh my gosh, Notre Dame is actually going to have a chance of winning this game. They went down and spent 9 minutes and 45 seconds. Don't quote me by the seconds, but a lot of time in that first quarter. I'm like, they listened to what Michigan did and how they beat Ohio State, right? They ran the football and they controlled the game, they controlled the clock, and the number one thing they did, keep the offense off the field. And so for me, I was like, I'm sitting there going, hey, they watched Michigan reels and learned how to beat Ohio State, who has one of the most highest powered offenses in the country right now, for this past year, if you will, that can score at will. There's nobody that can stop them. But Michigan stopped them by doing one thing, keep them off the field. And I thought, wow, Notre Dame's got a chance. And then the second quarter, they started throwing the football with Riley Leonard. And I'm like, I like Riley Leonard. I don't want to discredit that, but he's a good quarterback, but he's a scramble first, throw second quarterback, that in my opinion. Might be wrong. I'm just calling what I see. And I think that they went away from that. They started trying to throw the football, and everything imploded in front of them in the second quarter. And in the next second and third, fourth in the quarter, we watched them like implode by not doing what they did in the first 9 minutes and 45 seconds. I was shaking my head. My father-in-law, Jim, I told him, I'm like, what just happened? I'm like, they did what they were supposed to do. They watched the Michigan highlights, and everything fell apart. And I don't know. To me, Notre Dame had a chance to win that game. Listen, if I'm sitting through the first quarter, I'm like, Notre Dame has a chance to win this. I think Vahid, you mentioned it at some point on the conversation on the radio or whatever, but I think Notre Dame could have won that game, but they didn't do what they did in the first 9 minutes and 45 seconds, and that eventually lost the game for them.
I'm going to play devil's advocate on that.
All right. I love it.
Well, I think there's some truth, certainly some truth to what you're saying, but in that Michigan game, yes, Michigan was putting sustained drives together, running the football, but Ohio State also went away from what they had done the entire year, and for
Which is
whatever
passing
reason,
the football.
right? So, do I think that the game would have went differently? It's possible. I think it's clear who the better football team was, and they won.
100%.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But there is a lot of truth to you have a high powered offense, and Aaron, I'll repeat what you said. The best defense is a sustained offensive drive.
100%.
Because what happens then is, then Ohio State's offense, if they're sitting on the sideline for even a 6-minute drive, 7-minute drive, they're seeing their opportunities diminish throughout the entire game. And so, at that point, does your play caller get cute? Does your quarterback start to maybe force a throw that he normally wouldn't? And then maybe you run into a 3-and-out. So I totally get what you're saying, but I think, the microcosm that was the Michigan game, Ohio State also played directly into Michigan's hands in shortening the football. It's like when Notre Dame plays Navy, right?
100%. 100%.
If you're running the triple option and you know that you're only going to get 7 possessions or 6 possessions in a game, you don't want to match. You don't want to match a run every play, and then offensively, if you're the team going against Navy, run as well because you're just going to shorten the game. So I'm sure that Ohio State learned from that game plan against Michigan. I think it probably had Notre Dame stuck to that a little bit longer. you don't know, because maybe you wear them out by the fourth quarter, like they
Yeah,
had with some other teams later in the year, where maybe they're neck and neck, and maybe it's a 7-point game at halftime or a 10-point game, and then you go into the second half, and it's whose will is stronger, who's going to win at the point of attack with 5 minutes left in a one score game. So.
that's
Um,
fair.
yeah, so you're right though. I mean, I think it was still a good showing. Notre Dame didn't give up. You're down 31. It was a 31-7. I mean, a lot of people probably you could throw in the towel at that point, and they continued fighting, and I think at least made it respectable. But certainly on that day, Ohio State was the better team.
Well, they were definitely uh, the
And
more
I'll say,
talented team,
and
I think. I
here's
mean that.
also, I'll add one more thing. If they had not lost to Michigan, I don't think they would have won the national championship.
All that. Hey, I like that. I like that.
It flipped a switch. They played like a completely different football team in the playoffs after the loss to Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Irish, I mean, by the way, 16 game season, which is a pro season at this point. I mean, which is a lot of football for freshmen, for sophomores. I mean, it's a lot of football for seniors, even. I mean, that is the most games in Notre Dame history, certainly, by any stretch of the imagination. And listen, these, you're right, Evan, these football seasons are a grind now. And so if you're looking at, you know, if you're looking at making sustained runs in the playoffs, um, first of all, I think things are going to change in the playoffs in the coming years. I think this was a year that the committee sat back and kind of saw how things went. Do they get rid of the conference championships? They certainly will get rid of the buys for the conference champions, because that didn't do squat in terms of a couple of those teams. But if you're looking at Notre Dame's schedule next
It's
year,
it's
I think the
even
biggest,
easier next year.
well, I will play devil's advocate here. I think the biggest question in my mind is, you know, how hard is it to get back to the Super Bowl a year after you went to the Super Bowl?
Well,
Very, very tough.
if you're the
Super hard.
Chiefs, it's not. If you're the Chiefs, it's not that hard.
Well, I mean, they're having dinner and breakfast and lunch with the refs, so I mean that's pretty easy. Anyway, the
Future engagement coming.
yeah, exactly. But if you look at Notre Dame's schedule next year, and I think that's the question mark right now, is when you get into the offseason, it's can Notre Dame repeat and get back to that spot? Well, you open the season at Miami, then you have Texas A&M at home. You're at Arkansas, Boise State. You have USC, at BC, at Pitt, and then Syracuse, who is much improved. The early indications for me, they're losing a lot of guys on defense. They're getting a new defensive coordinator. They're getting some guys back on offense, but where does that put you, right? I mean, so you're getting a brand new quarterback again, whether it's CJ Carr or somebody in the
Quinn
transfer
Ewers.
portal. Quinn Ewers, it's still a new quarterback in a new system. So
Evan.
my thing is, I do think, are you ready for this?
All
I
right.
do think
Throw the
they
bomb.
lose 3 games next season and miss the playoffs.
Ooh.
Oh, wow. Ooh.
Now,
I think it's very possible that they'll lose 2 out of the first 4 games next year. I mean, that's very possible.
And it's so hard to pick them now too, with rosters changing. It's almost, you got to look almost week by week when you're picking now, because you don't know how these teams are going to look. But you bring up a good point, losing Al Golden and a number of the stud defensive players that really were the integral part in why they had success this year.
100%. And look at Michigan. Michigan, all of a sudden, after 1 year of being down, quote unquote, they're having, they kind of get the Ohio State 2024 syndrome, where they get some massive players, and all of a sudden they're back in the conversation. So you're going to have this year-to-year thing.
They're not even in the preseason top 25, baby.
Yeah, I think that's going to change.
Preseason polls are worthless anyways, but I
100%.
thought that was pretty funny that they're not even in the top 25. It was surprising. I mean, they finished strong. They beat Ohio State and Alabama, and have picked
Alabama.
up
And Michigan has some big guns coming in.
Yep.
Which again, I think is kind of,
Let's hear
It's a smoke screen.
smoke
right.
screen. All
It's
right.
nice to talk. It's nice to talk about, but until they actually get on the field and do something, um, I hate to do it, Bud, but let's switch the conversation to the Detroit Lions ran into a absolute buzzsaw. One of the greatest, honestly, rookie performances we've seen in quite a while. But I mean, man, the number of defensive players that were out for Detroit, and I don't think it gets any easier. Honestly, I mean, like you get a whole new defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. I mean, like where does this Lions team fall next year?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, we got a lot of different things that are happening inside of the NFL world. You've got the whole theory that everything is pre-staged, and you know,
Come on now.
you know, I had to throw that bomb.
How about just getting a better quarterback? I called it. I called it early in the season.
Wait, hold on. How is it? It's not pre-staged. You're in the other side of the conference or other side of the NFL.
All right, so here's I'm going to say something. And Evan's going to like this, and he's going to hate me at the same time. Josh Allen should probably be in the Super Bowl this year. That's what I think. That whole
We're talking about the Lions right now.
No, we're switching gears.
If Josh Allen was on the Lions would have won 3 Super Bowls by now.
Here's what I'm saying. The theory that people are watching football and they're like, why are the Lions not in the Super Bowl and we lose to a subpar? Okay, they got an amazing future, quarterback that's, doing amazing things, right?
Everybody's sitting back. Lions.
Yeah.
That game was not scripted. They got their ass whooped.
Yeah, they did. Listen, man. I mean, you got to call a spade a spade.
The Bills-Chiefs 3-point loss, maybe. But what was the final score in the Lions command?
45-31.
Hey, was it fourth and inches when Josh Allen should have got that first down, and then all of a sudden the Bills take over?
That was the call that really did it.
Okay, and so obviously, if you watch social media and you listen to social media and you listen to fans do not like Kansas City because they believe that it is scripted and that the refs are all pro KC, and Josh Allen had an amazing year. Probably should win the MVP, all things considered, right? He got farther than our boy at Baltimore. And the reality is that people are now comparing Jared Goff to Josh Allen.
No way.
They aren't.
Yes, they are. Yes, it's hold on. It's blowing up all over social media. Hey, 2 things have happened for
Here, hold on. I will refute that with one thought.
For Jeff Goff, there's 2 things that have happened. I just throw a little bone. Jared Goff has gone to a Super Bowl and been to 2 championship games. Josh Allen has only been to 1 championship game.
Hold on.
Can I finish? Let me finish my statement.
Good, because I'm ready.
All right.
I'm ready too.
All I'm saying is people are comparing Jared Goff to Josh Allen. The fact that Josh Allen had a chance to win the game in KC, throwing the political, hey, this is staged aside, he could have won that game on a 4th down, and it didn't happen. He kind of laid down, and all of a sudden we're like, what the hell just happened? You cannot sit here and not say, as fans of football, that was not a little bit staged, or it didn't seem staged. Hold on, let me finish. Jared Goff had a chance to lead the Detroit Lions against an underranked Washington Commanders, and they should be in the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl this year should be Kansas City and the Lions. Hands down. It's not. That's sports. I get it.
But it's not. Here's okay, Evan, before you chime in, I just have to say this one thing.
Evan's about to unload.
Do you know what Jared Goff had in the times that he went to the Super Bowl that Josh Allen has not had? A defense that could stop the Kansas City Chiefs when it mattered the most. Guess what? Guess what he had with the Rams? He had a defense. He had a defense. He had a defense that could make stops in a championship game when they needed it the most. Josh Allen has come through time and time again when he has needed to. Okay, so a fourth down Hail Mary didn't work out. But Josh Allen also, in three of those losses, three of the four losses to the Chiefs, did not have the ball in the final seconds. It was the offense of the Kansas City Chiefs who had the ball in the final seconds, and the defense couldn't stop him. The reality is,
All right, that's fair.
Jared Goff, literally in how many games threw multiple interceptions this year? So it wasn't just the defense that let him down. It was Jared Goff that let him down in multiple games this season. Jared Goff, Geraldine Goff, Janine Goff, whatever you want to call him, is not the future of the Lions if they're going to make a Super Bowl run at this in the next few years. Because you only have a short window, right? I mean, we all know this.
That's
Teams
true.
only have a short window, maybe 3 years max. And you're coming up on a 3-year window. Running backs are great, wide receivers are great. How many years are you going to waste there before it's too late? I just think Jared Goff is not the answer. He is not. He is not Josh Allen.
I think that's a fair statement. He's not Josh Allen. But I will tell you that I do believe Jared Goff can win a Super Bowl championship with the Detroit Lions.
No way.
I know that both you guys disagree with me on this, but I think he's got enough weapons around him. Like, if you watch his post-game interview, I'm telling you what, let's take the human aspect of sports, and you listen, he goes, he knew that it was on him to win that game. Or
It will continue to be, and he will again do the same thing that he did in that game.
all right.
So to go back to, I think you mentioned that he's been to a Super Bowl, been to a conference championship. He's also 8 years older than Josh Allen.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you got a veteran quarterback. I mean, yeah, no doubt about it. That's fair.
No. So what I'm saying is he's done that twice in his career, and Allen hasn't gone to a Super Bowl yet, but he's played for the conference championship. Hasn't won one yet, but he's played for them. You have to imagine that that's going to happen. We'll say at least one more time in the next 8 years. And how I'm refuting this entire conversation right now is this was supposed to be a rebuilding year for the Bills. They lost a number of key weapons on the offense, and everybody wrote them out. They were talking about the Chiefs and the Ravens. Nobody mentioned the Bills. Not one team.
You weren't even supposed to win the division, I don't think.
Yeah, that's fair.
So here's what I say. If you put Jared Goff on the Bills, they win 5 games this year. You put Josh Allen on this year's Lions team, they're probably undefeated going into the Super Bowl. The Bills did not. To repeat what Vahid said, when the Bills lose, let's use their game against the LA Rams, 44-42. Josh Allen had a perfect QB rating, 3 or 4 throwing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, did not turn the ball over once. And guess how they lost? They lost because their defense was on the field and they couldn't stop Matthew Stafford. So they lose games even when he plays perfect. Mm-hmm. The Lions lose because Goff is suspect. You don't know what you're always going to get. When he's on, is he good? Yes, and he has good weapons around him. But if you expose him, he had a 5 spot in a game this year where they lost. He threw 3 in this game. You flip those 2, I'm telling you, you get 2 totally different results. And that's why my argument for Allen as the MVP, even though Lamar had an unbelievable year, he
was in beast mode.
If you put a different quarterback on this Bills team and it's not Josh Allen, they are average or below average this year.
Well, AJ,
yo,
what is it about Goff that people in Detroit like. I mean, at some point you got to know, hey, like we got to move on from this guy if he's not going to get us to the promised land. And honestly, like, yeah, you're going to stick it out with him another year. I get that. But I also see kind of like, I also relate him much closer to who is the Vikings quarterback that you like it guy that went to the Atlanta Falcons.
Who was it?
While you're thinking about it real quick, Jared Goff is the is the girl at the bar that when the lights come on is not what you thought she looked like when the lights were down.
Oh my gosh! Holy smokes!
It's like
Jeez, oh.
it's like, are you saying it's like going to the Torch Lounge or what?
It's like
No, I didn't say that.
dust till dawn. Dust till dawn.
No, who was the quarterback of the Vikings up until last year that went to Atlanta?
Kirk Cousins. It's the
Yeah,
same thing.
yeah.
Cousins. I
It's
relate.
a great example. He's a dude you like. You can't hate him, but he's not Mahomes, Jackson, or Allen.
And look
Or
at the
her.
Vikings this year. Look at the Vikings. They won more games, regular season albeit. They won more games with a younger quarterback.
That's just a little bit better.
Correct.
Imagine if
So,
they had one of those guys.
well, this goes back, I think, to the thing that I really believe in. And it may be controversial, Evan, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this as we wrap it up. But what comes first, the chicken or the egg in the National Football League? Meaning, what comes first? Is it the system or is it the players? Now, one of the all-time greatest, we're finding out in recent years, one of the all-time greatest coaches is Andy Reid. He took the Eagles to the Super Bowl with nearly the same system, but now it's a little more refined with the Kansas City Chiefs, taking them to three straight Super Bowls, 4 total, could be winning their 3rd straight Super Bowl. Is it the system that makes the players, or is it ultimately the players obviously go out and play the game, but the system has such a huge part of this? The defense, look at the defense of the Chiefs. I mentioned this earlier today. Those teams have not been rotating personnel. So, like, Spagnuolo has been the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs for the past how many years? 5, 6 years as they made this run. Offensive coordinator has not, well, maybe changed once throughout this process. But the Lions, they changed the whole kit and caboodle, it seems like almost every year. How can you win a championship if your offense, your defense is playing for new personnel every single year?
Yeah, I think I've got 2 answers to that. First off, it's the system and I will say the organization. So the Commanders are a really good example of that. You know, it wasn't for a lack of talent, but they got the right ownership group in place that was making correct calls on draft picks and those people. But then the system and the culture that comes in is massively important. Okay. On the opposite end of that, also too, is there are guys that can come in and have an immediate impact, but their impact is directly related also to the system and the program. Baker Mayfield, good example. Not a good fit, not a good organization in Cleveland. Has a quick cup of coffee with LA, and then look at the year he had this last year with the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a number of those. And I think, why the Chiefs, whether, there's a scripted element or not, I mean, when they won their first one and their second, like, they're a dang good football team and they win for a reason. So I think that Andy Reid had continued to refine that system, and then you get a generational quarterback like Mahomes. It just takes you to the next level. And kudos to him for being able to retain his assistant coaches and the people that are, they're the cog in the wheel that's making it turn. And then with the guys that you get, then you just continue to add those pieces, and you look at like I think Mahomes took a page out of Tom Brady's playbook too. It was like I'm gonna restructure my contract because it feels like every offseason they pick up another weapon. You're like, how are all these guys getting paid and happy? And it's
Literally, like I didn't realize like half of the wide receivers that are on their team are on their team. I'm like, Juju's on their team.
yeah,
Who? I'm like, dude, what?
he was.
This team is stacked.
It's there's just so many weapons, but it's like when you breed that type of winning culture and guys that get it, then you draw people there, and it's yes, you want to make a living and make money, but at the same time, like I mean, you listen to a Mahomes interview, that dude wants to win. That's the bottom
Yeah,
line, and
100%.
I think that's from the ownership down. So for AJ and the Lions next year, I mean, Vahid, you bring up some good points. Losing both your coordinators is tough because, certainly Dan Campbell has done a good job of building a culture there, but you never know the guy that's going to come in if it's going to be the right fit, if they are changing systems. And him being, I think probably more of a defensive minded coach, maybe there's less turnover in their defensive strategy. But you had a wizard there on offense who I think, without a guy like that in his mind, I don't think you would have seen the offense and Jared Goff have as much success as they did this year. So that's a big hire coming up here in the offseason for the Lions, and curious to see how it pans out.
All right, AJW, who you got in this non-watchable Super Bowl here?
I could care less who wins, honestly. And can I actually answer the question you asked me like 30 seconds ago about what I think why Detroit loves golf?
Yeah.
Is
I'm
his
gonna
name Golf or Goff? Because I think you're saying golf.
That's my Detroit slang. I got golf. I got a little golf in my golf. All right. Here's my 2 seconds. I'm gonna give you my prediction. I'm gonna answer your question and answer the question you first asked me. I believe that golf is loved because here's the real reality. I'm 46 years old. Detroit has made it to what, 2 NFC championships in the last 40 years. And you know what? Sometimes you need a little like something to spark you to get encouraged, and the fans needed something. Kudos to Dan Campbell. Kudos to Ben Johnson. Kudos to our the new Jets coach. The reality is that Dan Campbell did a good job putting the right pieces in the right place. And the reality is that people love to win. It doesn't matter if it's college football or pro football. And when you're winning, guess what? Winning cures all. So Goff has been the best quarterback we've had since Scott Mitchell in 1994, which is,
That
I
is
believe,
not true. Matthew Stafford is way better.
but he never made the NFC Championship.
That's not his fault.
Well, but guess what I just said? It goes back to winning. And when you win, people get addicted. Hey,
Scott
this is
Mitchell didn't win anything.
he went to the NFC Championship. But here's the
He had
reality.
Barry Sanders on his team.
I'm not discrediting that. That's true. But the Lions were 15-2, and even if you're not a Lions fan this year, you were a Lions fan because the Lions were the shittiest team in a fucking America. Let's call it what it is, and they got to 15-2, and okay, we lost to Washington, but they made it respectable. And I think golf.
Horseshoes and hand grenades.
All right, but golf. To answer your question, Vahid, because I'm going to answer it. Golf got us to there. Can he win it? I don't know. We'll see. That's to be determined. Next question: who's going to win the Super Bowl? I really don't care because I'm not a Kansas City Chiefs fan, and if I like the Eagles are fantastic. I mean, Saquon Barkley is amazing, right? I mean, beast mode, right? But Kansas City is going to win this game by 3 touchdowns. You guys don't believe me.
Vahid, who you taking, buddy?
My heart wants to take Fly Eagles Fly because I just do not want to see the Kansas City Chiefs win one again. But I think it is the NFL wants to see a three-peat. The NFL wants to see the face of not only the franchise, but the face of the NFL win another Super Bowl.
100%.
And so I do think Kansas City by 2 scores, I will say.
I'm going 3. Not to repeat myself, but just watch. It's already scripted. And Taylor's getting engaged.
Saquon's a great story, though, man. I mean, Saquon is one of the best stories in the NFL that's kind of slipping under the radar here of MVP
Yeah,
conversation. I mean, he's having a phenomenal year, too. I mean, really one of the best free agent signings ever if you're looking at the history of the National Football League at this point. But, I think the Chiefs are on a collision course to destiny. I'm not straying from my preseason pick of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Vahid, if I had the Varsity Blues chain, I would have given you for that comment because that is true. People are missing out on what Saquon Barkley has actually done for the Philadelphia Eagles to get them to where they are. So if I could give you a digital version of, even though you can't see it on black, you
Well,
know.
I wonder if I could bring up a digital gold coin over here.
Yeah. I do agree. People miss what Saquon has done for his team and to put them in the position they are. Evan?
Yep. So we've had a lot of discussion about the NFL being script. The Chiefs are still the best football team in the NFL. They just get it done and they win.
That's fair.
I'd say the Super Bowl though happened this last weekend, Chiefs versus Bills. I don't think that the Eagles are going to have enough in the tank to get it done. I think that the Chiefs, having been there multiple years, that experience, I think Mahomes I think he's a stone cold killer. I don't think anything rattles him. I think the Kansas City defense is good enough to slow Barkley down and force some mistakes by Jalen Hurts, and I don't think you're going to see that from Patrick Mahomes. So I don't think it has to be close. Vahid, I'm probably closer to you, 14-point game, but who knows? The whole scripted side of things, we weren't saying that 3-4 years ago when the Chiefs initially won. And certainly, can there be some bias? Yeah, and have there been some calls that have gone the Chiefs' way? Certainly. But there's a reason why they're in this position. They went through the toughest conference, and in my opinion, the 3 best teams in the NFL all on that side. So, their path to get there, they know how to win. I'll cite Ian Book too. When we asked him why they win, it's in the details. And, since he said that and me watching kind of the NFL from afar, you just continue to see the Chiefs win in those moments where they aren't, in the what might be perceived as an unexpected moment or situation or scenario. That's where they thrive. And so I think they get it done again. I really, really hope that that Travis Kelce doesn't propose on the field.
That'd be bad, I think, for college football.
Well, I don't know about college football. Maybe the NFL.
I'm just making sure you're paying attention.
Yeah, so that's I'm picking the Chiefs. I mean, they were my preseason pick, and then I flipped with the Bills, and that was my heart pick, and I was really hoping they'd get it done this year, but I think the Chiefs are going to win.
I'll do a hot take too. I think with the win, I think you're going to see the retirement of Travis Kelce. And I also think with a win, I think that Andy Reid retires too. I think he's getting up there. I think he's getting up there in age.
Wow.
He's coached for a long time.
And that's why it'll be the Bills and the Lions next year.
Yep, exactly. Your all your dreams are coming true, buddy. We'll fly out to San Francisco and go see the Lions lose the Super Bowl.
Well, they didn't come true in 2024.
With a different quarterback.
Light blue is the Chargers.
It is. It is.
Ooh,
Chargers and Lions.
Evans throwing daggers.
And then it's
Casey's,
your and then it's your Lions against your old coach, your old ball
jeez,
coach,
oh
AJ
Pete's,
Down.
holy smokes. Casey's favored by 1.5 points in the Super Bowl this year. That's
Yeah,
correct.
I'm taking that all day long. I'm taking that all day long to the
I'm
bank.
I'm thinking KC by 3 touchdowns. I already said it, but I'll say it again.
All right, gentlemen. Well, this has been another great edition of the Varsity Brews podcast. Want to thank our fine sponsors each and every time for making this happen. Of course, Rustic Rocks. Our boy Gabe over there does amazing work. Check him out on Facebook and online. Legacy Performance. Use codes Stay Sharp. Did I get it right?
You got
24?
it. Just stay sharp.
I always add the 24 in there for some reason, but just Stay Sharp all day long on their website for a discount code to get some of their awesome products. And of course, WestWind Brewery. We don't want to forget that, AJ, you've got a fine musician coming into town on Thursday, so you don't want to miss that performance.
Yeah, we're trying to be humble, but we got Dylan Raymond coming in from Terre Haute, Indiana. Pretty big scene. We're trying to mix it up and show the other breweries what's up. So, uh, Westwood's trying to run Northern Indiana, and that's what we're going to do, and just be who we are. We may not be the Lions. We may not have Jared Goff on our team, but we're going to.
Thank God. Because, listen, you're Jared Goff. You would throw 5 interceptions every time, buddy.
We're trying to have a good time. So yeah, Dylan Raymond's coming in town. I believe Thursday this week, 6 to 8 p.m. Should be a good time. We're gonna be on B100. Shout out to our friends at B100 and Brittany Bailey on the morning show at 8:10, I believe, on Thursday. We'll have Dylan on there talk about what we're going to be doing, and he's touring through the area, and we are blessed and fortunate to have him join us to drink some beers and play some good country music, which I've come to love in my lifetime.
That's awesome. Evan, congrats on Kimber to you and Jules, man. That's awesome
Thanks.
stuff.
Congrats.
And we will do this again here as we wrap up the season here next time, maybe with a little party and get together here. So,
Sounds
uh,
good.
and don't forget the chain, because after the Chiefs
Yeah.
win, I've earned that. I'm not going to be humble about this victory, fellas. I
That's right.
called this beginning of the season.
Yeah,
Called it.
you may or may not have called that.
All right, gentlemen, this is Varsity Brews Podcast, and we'll catch you in the next episode.